Hello, Ryan. How's it going?
It's going good. How's
Hey,
it going for
Ryan.
you, Joshua?
Doing well, doing well. What's been going on with you? Over here, just a quick introduction about Ryan. He's a mechanical design engineer, but he also has sort of a mechanical engineering internship experience. Oh, before I dive more into those details, is there any difference between a mechanical design engineer and a mechanical engineer?
Mm, Not too much, I guess. Mechanical design is kind of a subset of mechanical engineering. Because in mechanical engineering, you also have HVAC, thermodynamics, which is HVAC, but also you can get into like internal combustion engines, power plants, or turbines in power plants, that kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Wait, so wait, slow down. Wait, so mechanical engineering is more with like energy manipulation of energy. Mechanical design is like with the units that move the energy in a way, or
No, mechanical engineering is a very broad kind of umbrella group of disciplines. And so there's like the actual design of like I want to design a linkage that allows like the suspension of a vehicle to move however much I want it to, so it's a smooth ride. Then there's also like the engineers that are like, okay, how do we optimize the cylinder and the engine to reduce the most power? And then there's the guys that are doing like the HVAC, so the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning work. That'd be if we stick with the car analogy, it'd be like the AC of the car and that kind of thing. Although typically it's more they're designing an entire HVAC system for a skyscraper.
oh, I see. So I think mechanical design engineer is just implementing something and improving it to making it better, either by cost efficiency, how much energy it uses, or how much space it uses in a way, right?
I
Oh,
suppose, yeah.
oh
It focuses
no,
more on the
I'm not
on
nailing
the
it. Or yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
it's difficult to nail down. It's more the mechanical side, which doesn't exactly help with this definition.
Shoot, I thought it was okay. I just say anything mechanical. You guys are involved with that. But one thing interesting about sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, cool, cool. Ryan was also a colleague of mine, University of Minnesota. And right now he's working in a bunch of side projects. This guy is like the ultimate tinkerer. He can almost make anything and improve something. He's involved with like woodworking, Arduino, even has his own YouTube channel, which we will talk about soon. So I guess before I begin, Ryan, do you want to introduce a little bit more about yourself, based other than what I just mentioned, or yeah?
Let's see. Well, I've been woodworking since I was pretty much for as long as I can remember. My grandpa was very into woodworking and carpentry, so I kind of got it from him and started collecting tools at a young age. And started off driving screws with a hammer, and have since progressed to finer woodworking and more metal projects. So
I
it's been a fun time.
Oh, I see. Interesting. You worked with your grandpa to make what was your first woodwork project? Out of curiosity, and what was that experience like?
Oh, I can't. I don't know if I remember my first woodworking project. Let me see. I guess one of them that stands out though that's old was I was working with my dad on building a raft. Because we live near a pond, and in the springtime it always flood onto our property. It's like I want to build a raft, and I want to go, into this floodwaters because I was like I don't know 5 or 7 at the time,
Mhm.
and so we're nailing a bunch of 2x4s together to create this raft. And then at a certain point through, I kind of step back. And I'm like, this thing's never going to float, is it? And my dad's like, oh no, it's never going to float. Come on, I thought we designed something that was going to work.
Well,
So
wait, what was your first project that? What was your first project that worked? But that sounds pretty ambitious. Wait, how old were you? 8 years old or something?
something like that, like
Oh my gosh,
young.
it's like
Um,
yeah. Go ahead.
oh, let's see what else. I don't know. There was a phase that I don't remember that was before that where I would just look. nail things together or screw them together, and
Okay.
it would be something. Um, well, let's see. I guess the first one that I can really think of, it made like a wooden airplane, a wooden airplane. Yeah,
Airplane.
yeah, little model airplane,
Oh,
except it was
airplane,
made.
airplane. Sorry. Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of a what do you call them? Like the little like 1x2s you can get at Home Depot with another board across the top and a little triangular board for the tail. So very simple. Didn't fly at all, but it was an airplane for me to run around with.
Oh wow. How big was it? Was it enough to fit a kid, or was it like a toy model plane? Or
It was like a toy model plane that when I was I don't know, 5 or 7, I'd run around the yard with.
oh,
So it
that's
was
still insane.
maybe a foot long or so.
One thing I like about this is that already you're trying to like when you're a young kid, you're already building all these complex stuff instead of like I don't know, like a wooden doll or something simple and basic. You just jump right into
Well,
something complicated. Yeah.
the airplane was on the level of a wooden doll or wooden car.
I don't know, man. Based
Nothing
on some of
moved.
the stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing moved on the airplane itself.
Oh, I
So
see. Well, that's still pretty impressive. I mean, guess I just like just designing one and all that stuff, man. So like, do you believe that your woodworking, like, it seems like like you're really good at tinkering and all these objects and items and stuff. Do you believe your woodworking kind of inspired you to be a mechanical engineer? Like, it kind of seems like obvious to me, or is there like other aspects, like maybe you explore other engineering aspects based off your woodworking hobby? Like, how did you come to become a mechanical engineering, starting from, let's just say um your interesting hobby of woodworking?
I really liked making things, and there's not too many like to make things out of wood. You end up just kind of being stuck with cabinetry or construction. And that's interesting, but ultimately cabinets are just boxes. Once you've made enough boxes, it's like okay, is that really entertaining at that point?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
so, but with mechanical engineering, it's much the problems are a little bit bigger.
I see.
So,
Did you have like a friend or something that like said like, "Hey, Ryan, let's build a robot together," and then that led you to be more in the mechanical engineering aspect, or was it like mechanical engineering? Sounds like Tony Stark stuff. Let's go.
I guess it's more the latter of it. Didn't know too many mechanical engineers. I mean, it's not a unheard of profession, but it's not super popular. So,
Oh, really? I thought it was like very popular, and there's like a high amount of demand on that in USA, right? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
oh,
I don't know. I guess at least growing up, I didn't know anybody's parents who were mechanical engineers. I mean, there was chemical engineers, electrical engineers. Uh, I suppose there's also it's a small sample size here of the amount of people who I know knew what their parents did. So.
that's kind of true too from my side. Like me, I was a biomedical engineer, and all my
Mhm.
family and friends are like, "Is that even real?" It's almost like saying you want to be an actor or an actress. It's like, is
Mhm.
that really a major way? What's a biomedical engineer? I have to say like it's like a mechanical engineer and a little bit like an electrical engineer and kind of a chemical engineer too. Just so broad. And they're like,
Mhm.
oh, basically nothing, right? So I had to be kind of like, oh my gosh. But I don't know, mechanical engineer. I feel like it seems like it's growing in demand by a lot, and you kind of like you could like almost scale to different like niches. And I mean, based on your background experience, you work in biomedical stuff, hydro fluid stuff, like a lot of fluid management products and designs. Can you tell me like each like what's your experience working in each of these like niches or sectors? Like, what is that like? Is it different in any way, or is it kind of similar? Like you had to build these certain basic concepts and these certain foundations of these certain products that they all share something similar, and like 10% the rest is kind of like a little bit of a spice it up a bit or something like that. That just tailors to what the purpose is needed. What is it like to be a mechanical engineer for each of these for most of these markets?
I'd say the biggest difference is probably if you're working on custom solutions or like one-off products. Like when I interned at Graco, over it was a few summers ago. They pretty much almost exclusively do standard product. So it's a bit more of an iterative process. So we got this current like paint pump that they build. How do we make it cheaper or solve manufacturing issues with it? Like, oh, this one part's very difficult to machine. It's a real pain. How can we change the design so that it's more robust, more reliable, while at the same time, keeping the cost down because you don't want to have, $1 million paint pump. No one's going to buy that.
That's true. I see. And like, did it require like I assume the skill stack for that is SolidWorks and a bunch of like thermodynamics knowledge. Like, what sort of skill stack do you need to perform those activities? It sounds complex in a
A
way.
lot of it comes down to problem solving is kind of the biggest one.
Okay.
Thermodynamics isn't. I've never used that too much. Um, and then stress analysis has been kind of the biggest one, just in terms of how much stress and how much force is this under. You have a paint that's under pressure flowing through these systems. If the pressure gets too high, eventually, they will fail. So hence you have safety factors, and you don't run the whole system at burst pressure. You run it well under that. Uh,
Oh, I see. Okay. And in your experience with Graco, is it like largely different than your current company right now at Oak River Technology? I mean, I know Oak River Technology is like a biomedical company.
mhm.
Um, it's like, is it like the same lifestyle as a mechanical engineer, mechanical design engineer in there, or is it like, um, yeah? Can you tell me like what's the experience like of being a mechanical engineer in general? Does it vary on different projects, or is it like this type of tasks you perform will be could vary greatly?
Yeah, yeah. So the differences between Graco and Oak River Technology are pretty big. And there's, the different industries.
Wow.
Graco, it's, fluid handling. Oak River Technologies, it's automation equipment is pretty much their main focus, and custom automation equipment especially. So pretty much all my projects are custom machines that haven't been designed before, or we're doing like a second or third machine. Whereas, Graco, they make, hundreds to thousands of their products each year. And so at Oak River, it's a bit more of how do we solve this problem? We only need to make this once. It's more about finding something a design that works, and not trying to optimize it perfectly for cost and all that kind of stuff.
I see. Optimization. You spoke about a lot of optimization in most of these roles. Has any of this like carried down to your like lifestyle in a way? I mean, I know you're always hiking and all that stuff, and it's almost like you're kind of optimizing yourself in a way too, like outside of work, inside of work, all that stuff. I'm just curious to know more about that.
I mean, I suppose optimization and improvement, I suppose, are kind of synonymous. And
That's true.
life, it's good to be improving in life. It beats the alternatives that are available.
I know that's true. That's true. I mean, well, I'm curious. Like, how about within work? Like, do you have like any ways to maintain your motivation and I guess improve like I guess your work experience way? Because some people they always feel burnt out, all that stuff. But you seem to have like a chill way of approaching most of these like of life. Like based on our talks previously, you're always like a chill dude. Everything is all great with you. So I don't know. Like in your work, do you have like some sort of habits or I guess certain posture advice to give to the audience in a way that I don't know to make your life like oh I don't feel as burnt out as before. It's just working pretty great. I don't know.
I don't know. That's somewhat challenging as everyone is different.
Okay.
I suppose the biggest thing is kind of finding that work life balance. Some people can put in 50 or 60 hour weeks, and they're just loving it. That's their jam. And some people are like 40 hours, and then they want to go home to their family, and then that's what really keeps them happy.
True.
Um,
But how about
yeah,
you? Oh, wait, sorry.
me.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Um, I'm more. I'm definitely not the 50 or 60 hour kind of person. That just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. Same here.
Like maybe if I was starting my own company, then I could see spending 50 or 60 hours a weekend. Um, but at a salaried job, like okay, there's not I just don't feel that drive, and ultimately coming back home and then hanging out with friends, working on side projects. That really helps me recharge and get ready for the next work week.
I see, like the usual in a way, right? Like friends, projects, and you feel
Mhm.
kind of chill. And I think you mentioned you plan to start a company. I don't know if that's you do you plan to start a company on your own sometime, and how would you go approaching by that out of curiosity?
Well, the company plans are still very much in their infancy. It's something that would be interesting to try to do. That's about as far as I've gotten in the planning.
Okay.
Um, haven't don't really have a clear idea on what product I'd be selling yet,
Oh, I see.
or
See
what the
that.
company would really be about. But it would be interesting at some point to try that.
But you are actively exploring that in a way, right? Based on your side projects that I mean, I'll tell the audience later what they are, but it sounds like you're kind of actively exploring building a company in a way, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a way, the YouTube channel is kind of some preliminary investigations into some of the avenues I'm thinking about.
You know what? Why don't we just like start on your YouTube channel right now? Actually, I was planning to talk about it close to the end, but I'm like, we might as well go over it. It's kind of interesting what kind of projects you're doing. You don't mind if I
Hmm.
share your YouTube channel? Let's see if I can. Okay, let's see if I can share the screen. Hopefully, Google Chrome doesn't do something funky. All right. So do you see your YouTube channel?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, everyone, he only has 2 videos right now, but keep in mind he just started like a month ago, so I'm excited to see how this will grow out to be. His channel's called Fix Labs right here. So can you tell me? I think the first video you made is about a plant shaker.
Hmm.
Can you tell me like what's the purpose of a plant shaker and why did you make a video about this?
Okay, so the plant shaker was an idea I had sitting at my dining room table one morning, and I had a couple of plants sitting there because it's near the window, and so the plants are very kind of frail, just because they're grown indoors. There's no wind to move them, and plants respond to their external environment quite a bit. So, like if there's a breeze, the stalks tend to grow thicker and then they'll strengthen themselves. So that's a problem people run into when they start like seeds inside during the spring and then move them out to the garden. They're very weak. And, potted house plants, these plants have lived their entire life indoors with, only breeze being when I pick them up and move them.
Wow,
So,
I'm sorry, I did not know that. I didn't know they need the wind to stay stronger. I thought this project was like a dancing plant to keep you happy. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Wait, okay. I didn't know about this. Is this applying to all plants and trees that you need some wind to grow stronger? I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's almost like exercising in a way.
yeah, I mean, it's not that they're unhealthy if they don't have this wind or vibration. It's
Become
just that,
brittle.
they're meant, that they grow for the environment they're in. So if you have a sudden change in the environment, like the seedlings, when you move from inside to outside, that can be really hard on them because they're not used to it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And like, how long did it take you to make this project? Did you just like thought about it within like a few hours and then just built it on that? Like in a few hours? Oh, you know what? I just make a plant shaker. 3 hours later, it's already done like this. Like, how long did it take?
Let's see. I had the idea, or I decided I was going to commit to the idea on a Saturday morning, and I was working on it pretty much all the Saturdays. So it's probably, I don't know. So far, it's probably been 8 to 16 hours into this project.
8 to 16. 8 to 16. Wow, that's pretty fast. Look at this, guys. And it's already like, it looks like something like you see in a factory right here. It's pretty cool. Yeah, look at that. Holy cow, it looks a little bit complicated. I'll be like, oh, maybe a week, a few weeks. Take me a while to think about that. Oh my gosh, that
Mhm.
is so quick. Do you have a little preview? What is your next video going to be about, or next project?
Yeah. So I'm planning on one more video in the plant shaker series. So we have
Cool.
the mechanical build, first YouTube video I ever did, very rudimentary. Then the electrical development, much higher production value there, but very technical. And unless you're curious about like really curious about electronics, it's not really going to entertain you. So the third video I'm doing kind of the final video to wrap up everything there. And so I've painted the plant shaker. I'm going to transfer the electronics off the breadboard you see on the screen. Do some perf board, mount a little electrical enclosure, mount that on the plant shaker, just so it's standalone, all wrapped up. And that's kind of going to be the final bow on this project.
Oh my gosh. How did you have to like Google online, or did you just like thought this at the whim? Like, did you Google online, like, you know what, based on this design, I'll make it better, and then it'll be looking like this? How did you? This looks like you did purely out of like out of your mind, man. That's insane.
That's so I used a 555 timer, and that's a pretty typical configuration for them to be in. Because they're meant as timers, and they typically do like a pulsed output, and that's just kind of the circuit that the company intends you to use their timer with.
Wow, I see. Oh, okay, I see. So it's basic, like you know some basic foundations, and you know how to like. It's almost like you have a base structure, and you know how to go a little bit better to make the rest of the movement. How much energy it requires. I think you just play around, experiment how much energy it needs to move the thing, like based on a certain load. Is that kind of how you decide stuff, or I don't
Yeah,
know?
it was all very experimental. You know, I didn't sit down and do calculations, figure that kind of things out that way. It was mainly just, okay, well, what capacitance do I need here? Throw a few capacitors in. This works nicely.
You know what? Silly. It sounds like a silly question, but I'm kind of serious. It's like, could this be like a portfolio project in a way? And you could put this like a YouTube link on your resume, and then other employers can look at it like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. And you just did this within like one day or so, like a little hackathon. I don't know.
I mean, I don't. It's potentially is kind of if they ask about hobbies during an interview, but in terms of uh, let's see, in terms of actual like finished machine, this would be quite disappointing for an employer to see.
Well, I mean, like I know they know that you don't have like a huge company project, a budget or something,
Mhm.
but with what you have available, you can make a mini scale something like this. I don't know. Wait, are there other plant shakers products out there, or is this just like the first of its kind? I don't know.
I believe, at least on YouTube, if you search plant shakers, it's the only one that comes up. But you have to scroll through the results of the Planet Shakers, a Christian rock band like Skillet, and then I'm like the fifth video on there.
I don't see. I mean, I'm looking in Google too. I don't see plant shaker as a product, and you've always been talking about what kind of product you want to make or have a company about. That's
Yeah.
huh.
I
Wait, is
mean,
there?
at the day's end, a fan will do the same thing. They're like an oscillating fan.
Oh yeah, really? I don't know. This sounds pretty consistent. It's almost like you could take a dog for a walk in a way, like at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Shake, 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 and then it's good. I don't know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty cool. I'm curious to build your that plant shaker project. What are some basic foundation knowledge you use to build it? I think we went over some of them, but just to
Mm-hmm.
reiterate, what are they?
So I mean, there's mechanical side of it. I used a Scotch yoke mechanism to produce the linear motion or take the rotational motion of the motor and translate it into linear motion. So there's some mechanism there. It's the first project I've had the opportunity to use a Scotch yoke mechanism on. It's always been one I've always wanted to try.
I see.
And then the electrical side of things, the circuit is mainly, I suppose you'd say it's it be, forget if the 555 timer is analog or digital, but it's, it's, it's achieving pulse width modulation without like a microcontroller.
I see. So you had to learn microcontrollers, and the previous thing you said was a linear something. What was it again? I'm sorry.
It'd be mechanism design.
Mechanism design. Okay. I'm just wondering because let's just say that I completely don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Would what sort of knowledge would I take to learn how to make something like this, or like some like software that you could advise? Like let's just say like there's some kids like Ryan, that is so cool, man. You can make anything you want. I want to make a plant shaker too. Teach
Mm-hmm.
me like what sort of like do I have to learn certain mathematic concepts, or is there some sort of YouTube videos I can watch around this topic that I could just build one like this? And you said I think one of them is circuitry, right? I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, yeah, electronic circuitry.
Okay.
Not necessarily super critical for this project. You could always just you could always just, instead of using a power supply, you could use batteries, and then like a AAA battery is 1.5 volts, so then you can increase your voltage in 1.5 volt increments until you're getting to the speed you want.
That's good advice. And like regarding components, like are there some
Mhm.
general components I could learn about to build almost anything like a plant shaker? Because it looks like you use, I think, a capacitor. Oh, I forgot what that potentiometer is. That what it's called when you turn
Mhm.
it up? What other like simple basic components can other people just study to learn about, and then to help them kind of get ready to make a project like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's motors, and then
Motors.
a lot of
Okay.
motor control comes down to either use a transistor or a MOSFET as like a electronic switch to be able to turn the motor on and off, because like the timer doesn't have enough current throughput that you can actually run the motor. So you use this electronic switch to allow the motor to turn on and off.
I see. Okay. And I'm curious, these sort of concepts, like these, like calculating how much load it works, the stress
Mhm.
analysis in a way, like load, how much, like just testing like by increments, like what you said. Are all these like concepts like something that you could transition to like when you take it to the industry? Like I know this is small, but like just learning these concepts and just mastering them like to a sufficient level, would that be enough to like get a job in the real world? Or is there just some other things that you need college to fill in?
I mean, so a lot of plant shakery is just kind of like it looks probably strong enough. We'll build it and see. So generally, that's not enough for industry.
Yeah.
Um, at a certain point, things get heavier and bulkier. And, instead of moving a plant back and forth, you have, I don't know, like 2 tons of concrete you're trying to sift through a grate or something. So that at that point, you need to be more and more concerned about the forces acting on the system, because you don't want that anything to snap, and then heavy objects are moving. That's kind of a bad situation.
It's true. Sounds like you
Yeah.
need at least knowledge of material science in a way, like learning their failure point in a way, and I guess like oh, I mean, I don't know too much about material science, but is that an important aspect, like what you mentioned about like the cement and um, the other materials, or
Um, there is some. I mean, like most people have kind of an intuitive understanding that plastic is generally weaker than metal. Just in terms of how much load. If I have like a quarter-inch bolt out of plastic or steel, one's going to snap sooner than the other. Uh,
oh, I
so
see.
that kind of understanding is the building block for it all.
Is this something that you could learn? You learn from University of Minnesota, or do you believe there's some things that you can learn outside of University of Minnesota? Like 90% of it, you could just do it on your own and kind of like skip college. It's kind of like one of my goals in this video is like maybe there's a way that if you had $1,000 and you could skip college and invest it straight to at least become a mechanical engineer or design engineer. So I don't know if is it possible, or it sounds like most of these concepts are really, really complicated to the point that you do need college. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, to make the plan shaker, you definitely don't need to go to college. That could have been a high school project. I mean, the high school robotics team could have easily knocked that out in a single weekend. No problem.
Oh,
Uh,
not my robotics club, man. The one that took like, will take like a year to make something anything. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
um, but it kind of depends on how complex you want it, and how prescriptive in the motion you actually want. Your total travel to be. There's a certain point that, I mean, in theory, you could figure it all out, but then there's also the question of, if you were to try to get a job in an industry, generally they just like the requirements, or HR likes the requirements that, oh, they have a degree, okay, we can hire them. Some companies have rules that you have to have a 4-year degree to get this kind of position.
Oh, I see.
And some
Um,
are more like, oh, they have this experience working on like a different company in a similar role, don't have the degree. It doesn't matter. They have the experience; they can do it. and they let them in. So it depends upon the corporate structure.
Oh, so it is possible in a way. Like, what sort of companies would accept that? Like, do they are they like mostly people who are like hiring for internship roles, or are they even just straight to a full time role?
I would say smaller companies
Smaller companies.
in
Okay.
general is going to be better. They're going to have less HR bureaucracy, less HR rule. A massive company, like would it be, let's say, like I don't know, one of the big auto manufacturers. Their HR department's probably going to have rules. Are like, okay, these are the requirements, and there's no exceptions to that.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess in the smaller companies, what sort of experience are they looking for? Like, let's just say you don't have college stuff. What stuff could I learn? Or I mean, even do some certificate stuff. I guess like I get a certificate on this and that. That's official enough that I could spend $1,000 or less on. What would they be?
I'm not really certain. I haven't looked into that too much. I don't think
Okay.
haven't heard of any like mechanical engineering certificates. I mean, there's like lean manufacturing and Six Sigma, those kind of buzzy business things, but
Okay.
there's not a lot of heavy mechanical stuff there.
Uh, okay. I see. I see. So, I guess for those who are doing mechanical engineering and like, let's just say that they just need some direction, I guess, like, what are
Mhm.
sort of two or three principles that you go by? Like, these are three things that I wish I could tell my younger self to become a better mechanical engineer. What would they be?
Let's see. I have to say probably that at a certain point you just need to pick a design and then see if it works. Because you can spend a lot of time going back and forth. Is this the optimal design? Maybe, maybe not. At the day's end, it's probably not the optimal design. But will it work and will it satisfy? Will it be a satisfactory solution? Probably.
Wait, but
So
okay, all right, I gotta ask more questions about that. Like with that principles, how do you I guess let's just it's kind of relates to like we both were in the automobile team in University of Minnesota. Do those principles apply in a way? Like we just had to keep reiterating it, keep testing to see if it works. Is it good enough? Maybe it could be better here. I don't know. Maybe.
yeah, like I guess for the snowmobile team specifically, big thing there is the engine. You don't do too much with the chassis. It's a big engine competition. So a part
Mhm.
of that, it's the exhaust. Trying to make the exhaust quieter, so maintaining performance. And exhaust, I mean, you're dealing with fluid going through the exhaust, dealing with air. It's changing temperature, so changing density. You got various flow restrictions in it, and then you're really caring about the sound, which is transient waves of pressure going through it. You get in this very kind of complicated system where a bunch of things affect it. So at the day's end, it's kind of, I mean, there's equations and general principles that are used to guide, but ultimately it's you just kind of got to make something, see if it works, and then move on to the second iteration.
I
Spending
see.
6 months designing a exhaust probably won't get you as far as spending uh, designing three exhausts, but only spending 2 months each on each exhaust, and then just iterating.
I see. But oh my gosh, dude! Like what you mentioned right there sounded kind of. I mean, to me, it sounded kind of complex, man. Like, and it's a student group
Mm-hmm.
project. Do you feel like there's student group projects that are more closer to getting you a? I mean, of course, it requires university stuff, but do you think some student group projects get you closer to getting a mechanical engineering job than just the courses itself? Like, let's just say someone with, I guess, general internship co-op experience versus a student who's like straight A's, summa cum laude in school, but no internship experience versus your experience, which in a way has like these complex student group projects. Like, are there pros and cons with each of this in a way, or is it more favorable to like what you mentioned, like working on this like hydraulics or like all these engine stuff. I don't know.
Um, I only have like my one data point of myself in this really
Oh, that's true.
in
Yeah.
my job search, but I think it probably depends upon where you want to go. If you want to go to grad school, getting straight A's and with honors, that's probably probably matters more. At a certain point, it seems that like companies care. Oh, it's above this minimum GPA that HR has set for us. Okay, we're good on that. If it's an extra half point higher, it doesn't really gain you a leg up on the competition. Uh,
Okay.
and the experience, I don't know, it definitely gives you something to talk about in the interviews. How much that actually sways the outcome of the interview, I'm not 100% sure. But it's super nice when I walk into an interview and be like, okay, I got, an internship, a co-op, and the student group thing to talk about. I can easily fill, an hour long interview with stories. So,
Oh, I see. And I think based on like your interviewing experience, is there like a few target goals that every person interviewing for a mechanical design engineer should go for that it will kind of guarantee like you're on the green level that you're good so far. All you have to do is just do an extra 10% and you're great. Like what are some sort of like basic stuff that you should nail in each of these interviews in your experience that most of them are looking for in a way?
um, I wouldn't say there's really a formula for it necessarily,
Okay.
because how people interview varies so much in terms of like you have the interviewer and what they were doing, and the individual that's being interviewed, and just like the format of the interview can be very different. Like oftentimes they'll may ask you some technical questions on like, we have this product, how do you think it would fail? That could be one option. But at a different company would be, okay, so let's say our customer has a ceramic disc, we need to pop a hole in it with a laser and then insert an O-ring and do a groove on the back side. How would you go about designing a machine for this? Yeah.
Oh, I see. And
So then
then
it's kind of the problem solving approach there.
problem solving. And usually with those type of answers, do they share something in common? Like in a way, let's just go to your electrical stuff. Let's just say that most of these companies that require a lot of electrical stuff, you might say like, yeah, usually these companies have this 555 component standard that they use in a way. Is there something similar in your answers when they ask you those kind of questions in the interview, or is it something kind of like this is very greatly?
Um, yeah, it was just so the 555 is more. It isn't really a standard. It's more like it's a chip. So it'd be like a Ford Focus would be the equivalent of the 555. But in terms of mechanical, um, I mean, because it varies so much. Because like in the co-op process, I was interviewed for one like biomed application where they'd just done like a rat study for like a year or two for some heart valves. Now we're getting to the statistical analysis on the rat study, and then they were trying to sell me on, you should come, be our co-op student and do stats magic on these rat heart data.
Oh wow. Wait, come
So
on. So you're like actually part of the experiment to make the in the you have direct involvement with the rat experimentation. I'm sorry. Like
no,
I
no,
don't know.
no.
Oh no, sorry.
So in the co-op process, you
Mhm.
end up interviewing with eight to 10 employers, and then you rank them, they rank you, and then the co-op office at the U of M does this thing where they try to make everybody as happy as possible. So you end up with your highest choice, or not necessarily your highest choice, but one of your highest choices, and try to kind of uh, they try to maximize
It's
the
like Tinder.
average rating there.
Yeah, just make sure they both
Um,
like each other much.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
means like you may interview with some companies that didn't necessarily want to interview you, and you may interview with some companies that you didn't necessarily want to interview with. And so that was the one that was trying to convince me on the rat heart stats analysis. Because they even said, so why would you want to work for our company? Looks down at his paper, or no, he asked, why do you? Looks down at his paper, why? And looks back up at me, why would you? I'm like, yes, I never said I wanted to do this rat analysis. And I didn't end up doing it because I had no interest in it.
Gee, that sounded pretty. Wow. And I guess I'm curious, like co-ops and internships.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the difference between them is that co-ops could substitute as student credits, right, in a way for the university. And oh no.
Yes, yeah, they can count as credits. Although I'd say that, I mean, while a good reason to do a co-op, um, I would say that's a little bit lower down on the list of reasons to do a co-op.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
So,
Like one of the reasons to do a co-op over an internship. What is the reason? I'm sorry.
so I guess the first is tend to get better projects because you're not just there for 3 months in the summer. You're there for 3 months, you go back to school, but then you're back, in 6 months from the start of
Oh,
it, and you can pick up the project again and do a third rotation. But at that time, you're going on a full year there, and so you're kind of up to speed. You know how things work. It can give you a nice project.
okay. I'll keep that in mind. And are co-ops a little bit harder to apply for compared to internships, or is it just like basically like what you said in a way? Like they like based on your university, they might based on what they can do. It's most likely that they can probably give you at least something in the co-op, or I don't know. Like, what are the requirements to be like to sufficiently get a co-op project in a way?
Um, Not entirely certain. I mean, like the different colleges do it differently. The U of M, there's a mechanical engineering kind of co-op office, and you apply and you have your interview week. You have, your just onslaught of interviews. They host them on campus, which is super nice.
Yeah, true.
It's like first time you're interviewing, so you just get blasted with interviews, and it becomes not a huge deal after that. So.
That's true. I guess like we could go ahead. I hope you're doing a hard transition, but let's go to your other aspects, like your health and your side projects. Like,
Mhm,
can you tell us more about? I know you're an avid hiker. Can you tell us more
mhm.
what that's like and what's your routine around that?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. I do need to grab my laptop charger here for a second, but it's on the way there. You can see on the wall behind me. There's a map to the Superior Hiking Trail. That'll be useful in a couple of seconds.
Oh, wow,
Let's
cool.
see. I need to unplug my stuff from this morning. I was working on a Arduino project.
Oh, you work. I was about to ask you what other Arduino side projects do you have, man? That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So this morning I was working on a. Here, I might as well just, since we're right next to the table.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, let me see if I can make my show the top. Okay, there I can see what I'm showing you guys. So on the table here,
Hmm.
it's not great, but where am I? Yeah, so we got an H bridge driving this motor at a variable rate, and also it can reverse directions of it. So it's a very, very standard project. It was just something, it's kind of the standard Arduino project, really. There's like 10 kind of standard projects, and it's one of them. But for some other projects, I'm going to need to use an H bridge eventually to be able to control a motor.
Oh wait, but what is the intended goal of that Arduino project? Is it like another plant shaker, or is it something different?
Um, the goal of that project is,
Or is it secret? I don't know.
well, it's exploratory in nature. So
Exploratory
there's not going to be a YouTube video about it, but it's kind of a precursor to the next YouTube series I'm going to be doing here. So
oh,
stay
I'm
tuned to
excited.
figure it out.
Oh my gosh, you guys subscribe to Fix Labs, man. Do it pronto. Dude, you gotta set up an avatar so people can find you quickly also.
Yes,
Dude,
yeah, I'm still working on the logo. So
oh my gosh. And one thing I like about your videos is that straight up your first few are like really high quality too. So you did that right. The sound is pretty decent too as well. So all you have now is just that avatar and you should be good. You already have 5 subscribers, man. That's pretty
mhm.
amazing. See, I'm telling you, dude, you have some interesting talent. I'm sorry, but back to your hiking your hiking health activities. Can you tell us more about that one?
Yeah, yeah. So last spring I got into backpacking.
Hmm.
So with the pandemic, a bunch of the normal campsites closed down. There wasn't any social dancing on the weekends. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? Well, backpacking sites were still open. So I ended up getting a backpacking tent and a water filter and headed on up north. I went up to Hogback Lake up in northern Minnesota and camped there as my first ever backpacking experience. Can you still hear me, Joshua? The screen's kind
Oh,
of frozen.
oh, sorry. Oh, yes, yes, I could hear. Am I frozen? Frozen? Oh, shoot.
You were frozen.
Wait.
You're moving again.
Okay, here. I opened and closed my camera. Is this better now?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. This high quality podcast material sometimes gets a little freezy sometimes. No, just kidding. Google Hangout stuff. I don't know what's going on. No, I could still hear you definitely. I heard you said you talk about backpacking and you go up mounting up north. Is backpacking like synonymous with hiking? Are they about the same thing, or is it backpacking involves staying within the woods for more than a day within the night? It sounds like you.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So backpacking it's pretty much hiking, but then instead of going back to the trailhead into your vehicle and then either back to like a day site in a campground or
I see.
a hotel or whatever, you bring in your tent, your food, everything you need for your trip on your back, and you set up camp. And the campsites, there's only pretty much one way to get to them is to hike to them.
Wow, a hardcore version of hiking, basically.
I suppose, yeah.
Gee, wow. And how? And you said you do this often, like almost every month, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was probably at least twice a month last summer.
I see. And you do different trails every time, or do you plan to like just practice with this one, then eventually go to like different ones across USA or other countries?
Yeah, I mean, with the whole COVID and kind of travel restrictions, mainly we've just been focusing on Minnesota. And Spear Hiking Trail is beautiful, and it's 250 to 300 miles long, so it definitely takes a while to see it all.
250 miles, dude. That takes forever. That takes like sounds like a month just to go around that kind of stuff or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a true hike, starting in Duluth, ending up at 270-degree overlook, it'll take 2 weeks to about a month to complete, depending upon how many miles you do each day.
Oh my gosh, well, that's insane, man. Do you like work out prior to hiking? Like, do you just practice weightlifting or something, or I don't know, or do you just like hike and you're good?
You just put the pack on your back and you just go.
I mean, carrying all that stuff is pretty heavy, right? It's like 100 pounds of equipment in your back when you walk. I don't know, like a
No,
tent,
no, no, no.
food, flashlight, and
Um,
TV.
my pack, I think, weighs, at least last year, weighed about 40 pounds.
That's pretty heavy stuff.
Yes, yes. And even for the backpacking community, that's pretty heavy. So some
Oh,
of my gear is I got kind of as hand me downs, or my parents used to use it, so it's 30 years old, and while it may have been cutting edge 30 years ago, I can reduce the size and the weight of it by half easily, going like a mid level
okay.
equivalent
Why
today.
not? Why not buy newer ones, right? Or do you just feel like this is just sufficient? It's stronger than this new age material. I don't know. Like,
Um, well, I mean, part of it's cost management.
oh
Um,
yeah, true, yeah.
Partly that, and also I do like some of the older equipment, like the old Thermarest. It's 30 years old, has never had a hole in it. When
Oh,
some
snap.
newer Thermarest, the Thermarest is like a sleeping pad, inflates, kind of squishy, and you put air in it.
Hmm.
So it makes the ground, it kind of hides the rocks in the ground. And so the newer ones, or some manufacturers these days of them, it's like, you have them for a year or two, and you just have like three holes you patched in them already.
Oh, gee.
So
Oh,
that,
wow. So, like, the newer ones are built to fail within the next year or so. The older one is just like durable for the years or something.
well, it's sort of, but it's also what they're expecting it to do is a lot more. The older one was it's 2 to 3 times as big as a newer one. So you have that added just bulk in your pack. Like my pack towers above my head when typically it's like at your shoulders these days. Maybe middle of the back of your head is kind of more of a standard backpack size. Just because
Oh,
so
I
much of it
see.
is just sleeping pad. It's kind of depressing. And then they also do like a waffle pattern in it, so that instead of like 3/4 to an inch thick pad, The old pads were about, let's say, an inch thick, whereas the new ones are now like 2 inches thick, so they're extra comfortable. So they got
Oh
all these
wow.
features, and then they have like these domes in it as well to do something. And so it's a bunch more features, much more points of failure, uh, but ultimately more comfort. So
I see. And what kind of food you bring? Do you just bring canned food, or do you just, I don't know, pack sandwiches and you're good? Like, what kind of meals do you eat during this backpacking trek?
yeah, yeah. So when I first started off, I would do sandwiches. So I'd pack 3 days worth of PB and J's for lunch. For lunch, I had PB and J. But by day three, PB and J at room temperature for the last 48 hours is
Yeah.
edible. We'll say it's edible.
Oh my god, just
This
PB
is
and
about
J?
the best review you can give it.
What? You don't even bring like marshmallows or something, or I don't know, canned sardines? I don't know, canned
Um,
corned beef. That sounds way tastier than I don't know, PB and J for 3 days straight.
yeah, I mean the canned foods are very heavy. So typically like ramen or dehydrated soups are a go-to. Mac and cheese, because you can get water when you're out there pretty easily. Uh,
Water from the river,
yeah,
or
mhm.
do you have like a filtration unit to
Yeah,
bring? I don't know. I don't know.
yeah,
Kind of. Okay, good. I don't know what the process is
definitely
like. I don't
filtered.
know. I don't know if you just do good enough.
No, that's how you get Giardia and stuff. There's too many people about to count on the water not being contaminated.
Okay, wait. So, okay, before we go into that, like, so tell me more about the meal stuff. So, you said meat stuff and canned stuff are pretty heavy. Okay, so there must be like a basic rule set of backpacking. So, bring light food like dehydrated noodles, um,
Mhm.
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Seems like almost like non-meat products in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean you can also bring like jerky.
Or jerky. Okay, that
That's a
sounds
very common one. Or some people bring Slim Jims with them.
Oh, okay. I see.
Uh, or
Okay.
like what I kind of transitioned away from. Well, I transitioned away from PB and J's because by day three you're just like I will survive once I eat this. But I transitioned to cheese and crackers with some summer sausage on it. And
Oh,
the
okay.
summer sausage, that can, if you don't open it, can survive, 6 months at room temperature. And if you open it, just eat it within the next day, and hasn't harmed me yet. So
That's like the most tastiest thing you mentioned so far. But
yeah,
it's kind of funny too because you're like a cooking guy too. You know all these spices and cooking, and yet you use PB and J, uh, 3 days straight. Do you think about I don't know spicing it up a bit? I don't know,
a
maybe.
little bit. Like at the beginning, I brought in potatoes and onions. That
Okay,
made
that's
the other
better.
campers jealous because
I
then you
think that's
put some steak seasoning on it, and oh, it is good. But it takes a while because the frying pan I have is a 6-inch frying pan, so to get full, I have to cook 2 rounds of these potatoes and onions, and then have a side with that. Then potatoes and onions aren't dehydrated, so they weigh quite a bit. And it's just like, okay, is this really worth it?
Oh, I see, I see. And okay, now that sounds like a reasonable. At least the potatoes and onions, you got that right. They're like the most tastiest stuff with any spice, basically. But okay,
Mm.
back to the water question again. How do you filter it again or clean it? I don't know. Like, do you like boil the water and get the condensed water and that's the clean stuff? I don't know. So sort of complicated contraction, or I don't know. How do you get clean water in the woods?
There's many ways to get clean water. So I guess just to run through a couple of them. So the first and latest weight is they have iodine and chlorine tablets. So you just
Ah,
throw water in a water bottle, chuck a tablet or two in, just follow the directions on the container, and then you wait like 15 minutes for the chlorine or iodine to off gas some, and then you have the water's been sanitized. Still stuff floating in it, but it's all dead.
oh wow. And you kind of sip it
And
up and nothing happens, or I don't know. Do you
yeah,
like
and then he
you like
also
to
has
pick
like
it
a
out?
like
Do you pick it out, or do you just like, I'm so tired. Just drink it all in.
I typically try to get clean water so it's not like mud or leaves in there. But you have your microscopic bacteria and stuff. They're just floating in there dead. Yeah. They also have iodine taste, so that's typically maybe you carry it for like a backup or just really hardcore. So maybe you do that. but that's not my style. And then there's also the route of, well, if I just boil it, then it kills everything
Well,
in it. But then, you have to wait. Then, if you ran out of water, you then have to boil your water, wait for it to boil it for a certain amount of time, and then let it cool before you can drink it. And then you have to carry extra fuel, and I'm not quite what I'm about when I go backpacking either. And then you have filters, and that's what I use. So they
cool.
have
So
filters that you kind of collect the water, run it through the filter into your water bottle, removes the bacteria and protozoa, and gives you safe drinking water.
okay, I see. Okay, so you're kind of safe in both ways. You add iodine tablet, and you also have a filter in your water bottle in a way.
Yeah, and I just do the filter. I don't do the iodine tablet.
Oh, iodine tablet. Okay, I see. I see. Cool. And I guess to go to your other hobbies too. You're also a salsa dancer. See, this guy is
Hmm.
doing everything, man. He's connected with nature. He's connected with mechanics, and he's also a dancer. It's insane. So, can you tell us more about your salsa dancing hobby and what's that like?
Well, with the current pandemic that's going on, it's pretty minimal.
Just dance by yourself.
um, pretty much. The end I think is slowly coming into sight here. So I've started some solo exercises again, just to kind of get back into the groove. But salsa dancing is a fun time. I started that the end of sophomore year in college. Uh, yeah, just a fun way to go out and meet people and have a good time.
I see. And what introduced you to salsa dancing? And I don't know, has this in any way, like something you learned from salsa dancing, contribute to your mechanical engineering activities, or is it just completely independent in a way?
Um, let's see. So I got started with salsa dancing because I would have been my friend at that time was salsa dancing. Yeah, end up being future roommates, but uh, yeah, he was like, you should check out salsa dancing. I'm like, I really want to, but I feel like it's something I should do. So one day I went and started salsa dancing. Yeah, eventually became president of the salsa dance club at the U of M.
Oh, wow, I
So
didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
yes, no one else really wanted to do the administrative role, so I stepped up and did it.
Oh, I was about to ask, what was that process like? Did you have like a dance off and then some people judge it?
No,
But
no, it was all the people that were willing to be officers gathered together and be assigned roles. And yeah, I had some experience with the more administrative stuff dealing with U of M when you're a student group. Yeah, get some of that experience through the clean snowmobile team. So just decided it was kind of a natural progression, or that it would be easiest for me to fill that role and let other people worry about marketing and promoting the club. So
oh, I see. So you just basically like, okay, marketer, do this. How's it going? That's it. Is that like what it is, or do you have to like meet with other people, like, I guess negotiate, like, where do you want to host the salsa dancing area? What kind of roles is associated with a salsa dancing president?
the biggest one is reserving the room. So each semester we need a room. So back when I was president, I would have to each semester submit a room reservation request to get a room locked down for the semester.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh, and that's it.
A majority of it now is it. See, we did try to do some promotion activities, but it was pretty low key.
Okay, I see. Well, yeah, I think we're approaching the end of the interview. Is there any a
Mm-hmm.
few tips that you'd like to give to other people who aspire to be a mechanical engineer or design engineer?
Go for it. It's a good time.
Go for it. Buy Nike. No, just kidding.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you interviewing and stopping by. Hopefully, everyone, if you have any questions, just let me know and subscribe to Ryan's YouTube channel, Fix Labs. Is there any way that they can reach out to you in other ways? Do you have other social media platforms you'd like to share?
Not currently, no. I just have YouTube set up right now. So
I
yeah.
see.
You can drop me a message on YouTube, and I'll respond to it.
I see. How about your LinkedIn? No, just kidding. 100 people like, I love your video. How do you make a plant shaker? no, just, no, just kidding. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. See you.
Thanks for having me, Joshua.